Pose-only animation. Well, what exactly do I mean by pose-only animation? Is it a new kind of special animation process where you'll be able to animate at Super Saiyan 3 levels of pure awesomeness? Maybe. Let me explain. It simply means animation poses absent of time. In other words, seeing your poses as drawings to be fleshed out later in the timeline. Was that a better explanation? No? Alright, I'll try to do a better job after the intro. Let's start things off by going into a bit of a backstory.
I was bitten by a radioactive spider that gave me supreme animation powers beyond recognition.
Just kidding. For real this time. Okay. I wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider. Very unfortunate. I was, however, bitten by this very relatable thing that many of us call Imposter Syndrome. Now, Imposter Syndrome is not exactly a spider, but it can bite. Now, how exactly did this come about? Well, like many of you watching, I've been dealing with and positively managing Imposter Syndrome happily for a while now. Lately, however, I've been feeling it creep back up in both my professional and personal work. More specifically, I've felt time and time again in animation that I've become far too reliant on video reference. Now, before you raise those judgmental eyebrows, allow me to clarify for a second. Video references, it's fantastic. It's what every professional animator uses. Animation Padawans, I mean students, can and should learn great body mechanics and acting from it. It's a powerful weapon in your animation arsenal. Simply put, it's essential for learning this craft. You can find endless clips on Instagram and indeed YouTube of some of the greatest, coolest feature animated shots side by side with the animator's video reference. Just take a look at the channel like 3D Animation Internship. They've got a whole channel dedicated to stuff like this, and maybe I'll even get one of my animation breakdowns on there one day. I'm going off tangent a little bit here. The point is, video reference is a phenomenal resource in more ways than one. I myself have shown how I use video reference to create fun and pretty cool animations here on this channel. So why has the feeling of, I'm not sure I can pull this off, jumped out at me? Recently, at work, I came across a long, single-take shot that required me to do some complicated bit of animation, mostly body mechanics. I didn't have the means or the space to emulate the environment that my character was in to shoot my own reference, and honestly, I think I wasted about 45 minutes searching for adequate reference online that I could not find. Yes, indeed, it was one of those shots. Yes, the kind of shot that makes you think, shoot, I've got to do this from imagination and double shoot. Why do I feel like I can't animate unless I use video reference? In other words, why do I feel stuck? Now, this is not an opportunity for some of you watching to exclaim the following.
Why, yes, a real animator can animate straight from their imagination, don't you know? Indeed, a real animator, that is to say, a true and talented artist, if you will, should never require video reference whatsoever. If anyone should disagree, that person ought to be lampooned for animation heresy.
To that I say, do us a favour, Pride and Prejudice. Be quiet, yeah? Look, sometimes in animation you're going to come across shots in your career that video reference really can't help you with. You're going to have to rely on your grasp of the animation principles. Indeed, you are going to have to rely on imagination. But this video isn't the 12 Principles of Animation lecture. It's more about the story and inspiration behind why I explored a different way of animating than what I was used to. Who and what was that inspiration, you ask?
Why, Guillermo del Toro, of course.
I mean, Guillermo del Toro. More specifically, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Even more specifically, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio / Netflix making-of documentary. That was a mouthful. Anyway, aside from the pretty cool fact that we as animators get to watch movie clips as inspiration and mostly research for work, in my humble opinion, Stop motion animators are some of the most talented in the industry. I could list about 100 reasons as to why this is. However, I'm going to focus on a specific aspect of a stop motion animator's workflow. That is, of course, the straight ahead workflow. Well, what is straight ahead animation? Glad you ask.
All right, let's do this one last time.
There are 3 types of posing animation workflows, according to the Animator Survival Kit at any rate. The first one is straight ahead animation, the second one is pose to pose, and last is essentially just a combination of both of the above. Depending on the medium of animation in use, a greater amount of emphasis is placed on one method over the other. In computer animation, we often almost exclusively use the pose to pose method. The medium of computer animation also caters to the layered approach of animation. You can visualize this as a sub-form of bending, like in the Avatar: The Last Airbender series. Firebenders mostly use fire, but they can use lightning as an effective and potent method of execution. Airbenders mostly use air as a form of self-defense. They can also choke a motherfucker, Flying is a sub-form of airbending. Jesus. Anyway, you get my point. In 2D animation, they also tend to stick with pose to pose. Layering is not as much of a method used in traditional hand-drawn animation, although 2D done with programs like Moho and Clip Studio Paint can allow for this too. Due to the nature of stop motion, it's typically constrained to the straight ahead method. This method occurs when an animator poses a character one frame at a time. As you can see in these time-lapse clips, the animator poses the puppet, takes a photo, poses the puppet, takes a photo again and again till the desired result is achieved. Now, according to the Animator Survival Kit, one of the major disadvantages of straight-ahead animation method is that things can tend to go astray very quickly. Stop-motion animators, like most other animators, use reference and planning, so they're likely not to fall into the pitfalls of straight-ahead workflow. There are innumerable time-lapse clips of stop-motion animators working their craft. I've always loved seeing these on social media and would archive them whenever I got the chance to. On this occasion, however, watching this documentary, a question occurred to me. What if I could take some aspects of stop-motion animation and combine it with my process in computer animation? But how exactly? Well, let's say like a stop-motion animator, I approached my shot by creating poses one after the other. For example, a pose on frame 1, 2, 3, and so on. This would be a straight-ahead approach? Possibly. What if I then combined the stop-motion process with my medium of choice, computer animation, and took advantage of what the computer has to offer? In other words, what if I posed my keys and extremes like a stop-motion animator and then timed everything out in the flexible way that computer animation allows for? What if I could have the best of both worlds? Incidentally, while I was attempting this, I noticed that I was going back and forth through my poses like a 2D animator would back in the Disney era of hand-drawn animation. The skill of flipping through different sheets of paper to see what the animation might look like before committing to the next drawing before or after. This was so cool. I was combining all different kinds of animation processes. Why hadn't I thought of doing this before? To better illustrate what I'm talking about, let me give you an example. Take a look at this simple animation. It's not the most detailed bit of animation, but I'm super happy with how it came out. This was something practiced on my own personal animations before trying it out on my shot at work. It makes me think differently. I build anticipation into the pose. I build overlap into the pose. I'm easily able to think about spacing because I can go back and forth very quickly, like a hand-drawn animator would. For the most part, I'm left thinking only about easing in and easing out when displacing my drawings, if you will, through time. This was exciting stuff. Again, it's not the best animation by any means. I'm just happy that I found something to get out of my funk and start animating with joy again. Needless to say, I applied this to my shot at work, with more planning, of course, and the director approved it for blocking the first time he saw it. It was such an awesome feeling. So the next time you feel stuck in executing an animation, or the next time you come across a shot that video reference can't easily help you with, ask yourself, what limitations do animators in different mediums other than my own have to deal with? What disciplines and practices do they have to overcome those hurdles, and how can I take from other mediums of animation and apply it to my own workflow and make my animations sing? That's it for today's video. I just wanted to share something recently that made me feel like, yeah, I am actually alright at this stuff and I can actually do it. Once again, I've thwarted the dreaded imposter syndrome and lived to fight another day. Share some of your imposter syndrome thwarting tips below. Alright, that's the end of the video. I've been the Animator's Headspace and you've been wonderful. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Bye.